We recently traveled to Illinois for a walk around an income-producing farm to learn about the ins and outs of harvest season and why many farmland investors sleep well at night. Later in the video, we discuss how new investors can get started. Have you ever thought about owning farmland? Hello, this is Tori with LANDiO. We're here with Eric Nurmi. We're in McLean County, Illinois, out on this 786-acre income-producing farm, the Agribusiness farm. In the fields here, we can see that a lot of the corn has been taken down. In the presentation that we have on our website, the corn was growing and the soybeans were growing at that time. Eric, tell us a little bit about this farm.
Yeah, I mean, it's an exciting time of year when we get to finally see harvest happen. I love seeing the green and the fresh come up, but this is what it comes down to is harvest time. It's one of the most important times outside of planting season that the farmers have, and so the timing is extremely important. They've been letting the corn dry in the field, and now it's time to take it down. And so this is again a big part of the year, and it's exciting to see harvest happen.
The reaping and the sowing.
That's right.
Amen. And we're standing here behind this machine shed to block the wind.
Yeah, it's a very windy part of Central Illinois, and one of the reasons why they're actually putting a wind farm in this area of the county. And so I was a few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to sit down at that meeting and just get an update on what was happening with the process of getting that underway. So this upcoming year, they're going to be finalizing the plan for that development. Right now, we're told that 4 turbines are going to be on this property. That will take up about 1 to 2 acres per turbine. And so it really is a great opportunity to really allow for the continued cultivation of a majority of this land and then add additional income for that farm owner as wind energy is being created out here on this farm.
And as been driving up through Illinois and we got to this area of central Illinois, we noticed that there were a lot of wind farms along the way. And how often is it this windy?
We often see this type of wind multiple times a year. It's typically when you see these transitions of seasons, you'll definitely have wind coming and changing and just flow through here. Yeah, like I said, it's usually during these change of seasons that you see the majority of these major wind gusts.
And the change of seasons is something that's actually really beautiful that we've been enjoying here. Today is October 24th, 2022, and the fall colors are popping in the trees.
Yep.
Really beautiful. What happens when all the corn is harvested and all the soybeans are harvested? What happens with the farm at that point?
Well, the farm, a lot of them will look at what's going to happen for next year. So there's certain farms where they'll need to put additional nutrients in the soil during that, before the winter time happens. So you'll see different sort of fertilizers and other things going on the field during that time. You'll also see people that are looking to do tiling during the off season. They'll start coming in and planning where they need to put tiles for areas that have needed more water or water coming off the field, those sort of things.
And would this be a time when let's say you're the farm owner and you've got a farm manager or farmer in place, is this the time then you're having those kind of conversations and planning for the coming year? Well,
you're typically having those conversations. You're already knowing what you're going to be doing during the off season. So yeah, it's a time for, after you get the harvest done, is to make those action plans for what you're doing. And you're also looking at what kind of yield that just came off the field. So what kind of production that the farm did that year.
And how is the yield measured?
There's several grain bins in the area, and what they'll do is they'll be measuring and weighing the beans and the corn once those are coming in for storage before they're selling those.
So over here we have the corn crib and the grain bins. What's a corn crib?
A corn crib, they would often put corn in there to dry it out. So they don't use them as much anymore, but they would actually take the corn off the field and they would put it in here, and you can see that the corn crib actually has slots in the siding of of this. It's not solid like
yes.
this barn over here with a corrugated steel, and that would allow for the corn to actually dry out.
Okay. Okay, so it's like you put your newborn baby corn in the crib. And
Oftentimes you'll see these used in the off season for storage of equipment, just so it's protected if you don't have a large shed like we have right behind us.
and this farm has 2 machine sheds and 4 grain bins,
That's correct.
and the bushel capacity is
60,000 is what we were told by the owner.
okay.
Just like the process that we talked about with the corn crib and having those slats to be able to, that was the old way to dry out the corn. We have aerators in the corn bins that are grain bins to help dry out those the beans and the corn. So up north, they'll actually, some people will farm it quick, pull it off when it's still pretty wet and still has a lot of moisture in the corn cob. The reason why they do that is because they have a shorter growing season than we do here in central Illinois, and they're trying to take it off on the ground before, depending on how many acres they're farming, and they'll use the dryers a lot more up north. I talked with several different farmers that's actually one of the major expenses that they have that we don't have here, is because they can't dry out in the field like we do here in central Illinois.
So that's another unique benefit to this area of central Illinois,
That's
is the
correct.
ability to
Yep.
let the corn dry longer in the field.
That's correct.
Now, does it have to be dry before you take it to market?
No, it's you have the advantage if you have beans and corn that have aged in the field, because of if you come to the storage facility, sometimes they'll dock you based off of the weight if you have too much moisture in your corn, and so having it dry in the field is an advantage when you take it to those storage facilities.
So these are all the little nuances that play into the cumulative of this area being so desirable for farmland.
That's correct.
Right here, this is the slats that you were talking about that allow the air to circulate through here when they were using this as a corn crib.
Yeah, we had an old corn crib in an old farm that we had, and this is newer technology from what we had. We just had slats of wood on our corn crib. But yeah, it's designed so that air can pass through and you can dry your beans and corn.
And you just mentioned technology in relation to farming, and as we pulled up here, we met Marvin, who was getting into his fancy John Deere tractor, and the gentleman's 76 years old, and he said, I never in my life thought that I would be operating a machine like this. He said basically he turns the corner, presses a button, and it does the work for him. It's already pre-planned out by the farmer in a very efficient manner to maximize the effectiveness of the work that he's doing.
Absolutely, it's all GPS driven, and you're seeing that a lot with these tractors and combines now, is they really map out the most efficient way to plant and to harvest on a particular field. They have it so dialed in that they know even when they're putting in certain parts of the field that may need fertilizers, where in other areas where it doesn't, where it's already designed based off of the map that is created for that farm.
And we can see it off there in the distance. That looks like a very high-tech and expensive piece of machinery.
That's correct.
Whose responsibility is it to purchase and maintain that?
Well, it's the farmers, and so that's why the landowner is partnering with good farmers that know what they're doing, who have the history, who have developed and acquired the capital to run an efficient farm operation.
And that's one of the things I think is important for people to think about, is with that farmland investment and the partnering with the farmer, is that is a cost that the farmer is incurring.
Yes. Well, it's very similar to a commercial type of property. So if you have a commercial tenant, they're running their business in your space. You can kind of think of your farmland as your commercial building, and you are bringing in a tenant, a commercial or farmer in this instance, to be in your space and use your land to run their business.
Some people may have heard of like land leases, and where you'll own the land, a company will come in, they'll build the building on the land, they'll sign a long-term lease, maybe it's 30 years, maybe it's 50 years, I've even heard them be as long as 100 years. However, that business could have a life cycle. There are things that could happen within the market that the business could no longer be viable. And yes, you're left with the improvements that they make. However, what we're talking about here is something that it's annual, and it's a necessity, it's a commodity.
Yeah, it's just a very unique thing, and that's one of the reasons why historically I think that farmland has had just slow and steady appreciation, is that it's not heavily reliant on some of these major cycles and swings with what's happening. You think about some of these people who've had major commercial tenants who now after COVID are changing the way that they have their offices. They're either downsizing or doing part-time. You know, the way that we have new technology here, and so some of the ways that farming has been done has changed, but it's still consistent. It's something that will continue to happen and is needed throughout the world.
And it's following that cycle of life that God's designed: seed in the ground, the sowing, and then the reaping. So what goes on inside this grain bin?
There'll be, this one is not being used, and I don't know how.
Hello!
This is the trailer, and
this will push the grain up into the top of the bin.
a lot of it is where are they going to be storing it? How are they going to be moving it? A lot of these farmers now are putting it into these larger facilities, but yeah, this is available for use and for storing. And a lot of it sometimes, if you're selling your grain and it's going to be sitting for a little while before, if you don't like where the prices of the market is at, having your own space to store the grain is going to be valuable for you.
One of the things about this farm that's unique is the size and being contiguous.
That's correct.
786 acres.
Yeah, it's very rare to find in this part of the country to find a piece this large that is contiguous. Oftentimes you can find large farms, but you're taking parcels from maybe a half mile or a mile away, maybe sometimes even 2 miles away, to make up a larger farm that may be typically this many acres. For the landowner, having something like this, where you're able to come to a farmer and say, I have this many acres, and it's all contiguous, and it's very easy to plant and harvest, puts the landowner in a very good position to negotiate lease terms.
And all that contiguous component adds to the efficiency, hence the desirability for the farmer.
Absolutely.
And we have a paved road that bisects the property, east and west, road that runs along part of the east boundary, and then a road that runs along the entire west boundary.
Yeah.
So not only is it contiguous, it's also easy to access. And we have power in multiple locations.
Yep. It's highly likely that they're going to be doing some improvements to these county roads with the company that's doing the wind turbine development. I don't know what and where, but that is something that's part of what they do, is they do improve the county roads when they're coming in here for those development of the wind farms.
Let's talk about the proximity, because we were just in Bloomington, and this regional airport that was packed.
Yeah, I mean, you're in the largest county in Illinois. McLean County is also one of the highest counties in the nation with international ownership. It also is just a great spot for producing farm, but you have two major universities. The University of Illinois is about 30 minutes from here, and for 10-15 minutes you're at ISU, Illinois State University. The regional airport at Bloomington Normal, that has trips out to many different locations. It's a great airport. I use it all the time. And so you have some really good college communities that are near here in the heart of central Illinois. So for a landowner who may not live in Illinois, this is a great location to be able to move in and out of.
And that's one of the things to think about also is the strategic location from the standpoint of future growth. We had a visit a couple weeks ago with a gentleman who has made a fortune buying and investing in land. He has a long-term perspective.
Yep.
He looks at what's the next 20 to 30 years going to be like. And we think about the growth that's happened around this area of central Illinois. This property is in a prime position to benefit from the growth that's taking place around it.
Yeah. My hope is long term that this still, because of the quality of the soil, that this stays as a good farming area. There's parts of the country that I've seen where it's been a lot of the good farmland has been taken up with housing and that sort of thing, and you will see some expansion from these college communities. But with this particular farm, yeah, I mean, 20, 30 years, who knows what's going to happen. But this is such a prime space, and one of the things that we look at in real estate was the highest and best use of a property. And the quality of this soil and what this actually produces, I think the highest and best use is farmland. But a future owner might think differently.
You're talking about the area. We were just in a community, Mahomet,
Yeah.
which is where you live and where your family has farmland. And it is almost like an oasis.
Yeah.
You've got a river running through the town, you've got topography change, you've got all these mature trees.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a unique space when we talked about water flow and just access to water. When you have some of these rivers and streams that are surrounding this area, it does provide, and even like the Mahomet Aquifer.
Bloomington Normal is also desirable for major corporations such as State Farm Insurance, the largest property casualty company in the United States. Rivian has their manufacturing plant there,
Yeah.
the electric vehicle company. We have Champaign-Urbana. There's the University of Illinois, along with other major businesses.
Yes, yeah. You have, it's a community that has just continual growth. A lot of ag-related business and ag-related tech is coming out of this part of the country. University of Illinois has a big focus on ag business and ag tech, and so that's something that is definitely desirable to be positioned well as far as a location and what's actually happening in this part of the world.
So we talk about the fertility of this soil, and I remember when we had the 320 acre farm,
Yeah.
we were talking about that dark, deep topsoil.
There's a reason why it's called topsoil. And one of the things that is a big thing that we care about when there's some of these alternative energies and green energies companies coming in for development is the protection of the topsoil. Because if this is damaged, then it affects the production of the land. And so one of the things that the company that's doing the development of the wind project here is that they are seeking to really protect the productivity, the soil, and really, as they're building access roads, is to ensure that this topsoil is not damaged, or if it is, it's at a very minimal impact.
So oil is not the only black gold.
People looking to get into farmland are curious on who's going to farm it. Some people are asking, do they have long-term tenants in place? And oftentimes it's a year-to-year lease. Occasionally we'll see longer-term leases like this farm. It's beneficial when it is a favorable lease to the landowner when they're looking to sell. It also can be beneficial to the tenant farmer who knows that they have, especially on a sizable farm like this, they have time to plan and create relationship with that new owner. Having that relationship, finding the right farmer are some of the things that people ask about. Understanding what is the process or what makes a Class A farmer as far as the soil goes. But those are some of the things that we've been getting from new people who are not as familiar with farmland as an investment opportunity. The other thing is return on investment. We had talked about this being a slow growth proposition when it comes to investment. This is not something you're going to have heavy returns on. It's more of a land banking process, and it's a boring type of investment, but it's unique, and it's for me it's exciting to see.
You use the phrase boring investment, and one of the things I've heard people talk about who like to invest in boring things is that they sleep well at night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're not going to see the major fluctuations that you see in the stock market or cryptocurrency or anything like that, which makes it a great alternative investment to diversify your portfolio. And yeah, you can sleep well at night if you've planned out well how you're going to acquire land. You say that phrase and it reminds me of a farmer I was talking to earlier this year, and he was talking about how does he acquire land and how does he use his leverage and do acquisitions, and that was exactly the term he used, is I want to sleep well at night.
So if you have areas of your portfolio where you can sleep well at night, it gives you the opportunity also to then maybe take a portion of your portfolio and be more aggressive in an area and not have all your chips in one area.
Yeah, I mean, it's you look at what is your end goal, and when people come and talk to me about acquiring farmland, the number one question I ask is, what is your goal with it? You know, what are you expecting with your farmland? And that helps me qualify them if they are the right purchaser. Do they understand this business? Do they understand, does it fit what they are wanting or not? And if they say, hey, yeah, I was talking with a gentleman, he had a business, he had several other types of real estate, and he saw it as an addition to what he was doing. And we were able to talk a little bit more at a higher level because it did fit into that criteria. He's like, yeah, I have residential real estate, I run my own business, I have commercial real estate. And he understood that this was not going to provide the high ROI that some of these other investments were doing for him. But he saw it as an addition to and a place to park money, and that he was able to get some sort of cash return on as well.
So this is a Class A trophy asset. As we mentioned, 786 acres. Price point is $19.55 million. But if you like the overall asset class, you like the idea of farmland, and right, but maybe the price point is not where you're at this moment. That's the importance of speaking to someone like you, is that there are other opportunities out there. You know, this is the property that we're standing on right now, but there are other opportunities of varying price points, sizes, different productivity indexes, classes of soil, etc., right, that someone could start down that journey.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have tracts that are 20 to 40 to 80 acres that are great opportunities to just get started. I was talking with a guy a few years who had just picked up a few years ago his very first farm, and so he started off with a small 40-acre farm, and now has just built that up over time and around his original piece. I was talking with a gentleman earlier this week who he wanted to pick up something that was not quite this large, but it was larger than what we typically see for sale. And the discussion was, are you okay with acquiring a smaller piece and then picking up other property along the way? And so that's how this farm was actually created, was that process.
If there are questions that you have that have not been addressed in this video, please post them in the comments below. We'll be reviewing those questions and following up with subsequent content to answer those questions. One of the most important things that we're doing here is providing you with the information, the education with which you can make decisions to plan out your life and your future. Thank you for watching, spending some time with us. Thank you, Eric, for
my pleasure,
taking us on this tour of this beautiful property.
It's been fun having you here and talking with you over the years and being able to help provide another alternative for sellers that are looking to sell farmland in this area, and provide this opportunity for people that are interested in farmland to be able to purchase. So I love what you guys are doing at LANDiO.
You know, on behalf of myself, my family, the entire team here at LANDiO, we sincerely appreciate your continued support. Thank you and God bless.